Welcome to Jimbo's Barbecue Hacienda. Simple crowd, pleasing recipes for your grill. I'm Jim Haas. Thanks for hanging once again. Today we're going to do a smoked pork butt taco recipe, a slow smoke. It's going to take us all day. So we're starting early. It's still dark out. Let's do this. All right, what we're going to need for this particular recipe, a bone-in pork butt, cilantro and onion, which we're going to chop up, any color onion, whatever you prefer, mustard, seasoning of your choice, some kind of avocado cream sauce, queso fresco cheese, corn tortillas, hot sauce, lime, chicken broth, and butter. We're going to dial our smoker in at 245 to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Any style of smoker is going to work with this recipe. I prefer a charcoal smoker. I'm using large lump charcoal with apple wood chunks. We're going to figure about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 of smoke time per pound of pork. So here we go. All right, prep time. What I have here is about a 6-pound pork butt. We just want to trim up some of the loose pieces. This one is actually pretty compact, so there's not a whole lot of trimming. It's just really those loose pieces that are hanging off that might burn a little bit. But it does have a particularly big fat cap. I'm just going to take a little bit of that off. And, you know, there's a lot of differing opinions on whether or not to cook with the fat cap up or down. There's pros and cons to both. So what I'm going to do is for the first phase of this, because 6 pounds, I'm guessing, this is the first time I've done this, I'm guessing this is going to be about a 9-hour total smoke time. But at about the 7-hour mark, we're going to pull it off. We'll do temp checks once in a while, but at about 170, we want to pull it off, re-season, wrap it in foil, put it back on the smoker for a couple hours. So I'm guessing 9-hour total smoke time. But what I'm going to do for that first phase, I'm going to do fat cap up, and I'm going to score it. And then for that second phase, I'll do fat cap down. So we want to do kind of a crosshatch scoring. And for phase one, what we're going to do is cover this thing in mustard as a binder. I'm going to cover it really good with mustard. And then we're going to use a seasoning pork rub of your choice. This again is where we get a little experimental since it's the first time I'm doing this. And I, you know, kind of looked at a bunch of different recipes online. I took a little from here, a little from there, kind of simplified it because, you know, our whole thing is simple recipes. And then what I'm using today for the seasoning is it's a Beasley's. Never actually used it before. I actually picked this up from a friend of ours at a trade show a couple of years ago, or well, last year. Beasley's Smokehouse Rub Pork Rub. It's got salt, pepper, garlic, which is usually what I'm all about, usually starting with that no matter what I do. And it's also got some paprika. I got a list of what it has here. Onion powder, mustard seed, sugar, chili powder, cayenne pepper. So kind of the essential pork rub. Making a mess. Coat it generously. So this is pretty well covered. What we want to do now is just let this sit for, where's my fat cap? There it is. So much seasoning. Couldn't tell where the fat cap was. Want to let this sit for 15, 20 minutes. Let it sweat out and adhere. Let that seasoning adhere to the pork. And smoker will be dialed in. We'll get it on there. Our smoker is dialed in at about 248 degrees, right in the zone. So we're going to place our pork butt in the smoker, fat cap up, close the lid, About the 5-hour mark, give it a temp check just to see where we are. I'm at about 150, so I think we're looking good. At the 7-hour mark, I was still way under that 170 Fahrenheit internal temp where I wanted to be. So I'm going to let phase 1 go for about another hour. One of the risks of cooking outdoors in South Louisiana is the weather can turn at any moment, which it has. Started raining. No problem though, I got my trusty big umbrella. Cover our smoker, save this experiment. Okay, the 8-hour mark of phase 1, and we've got an internal temp of about 165. I wanted to be up to 170, but I'm going to roll with this. I'm going to say that's close enough. So pull the pork butt off of the smoker, set it in a foil pan, fat cap down. Now with a hot sauce of your choice, coat the top and sides of the pork, and then re-season. Come in and re-season, top and sides, make sure you get good coverage. And then with your butter, you want to slice up some butter. I'm using salted butter. I don't know if it makes a difference, salted or unsalted. But just put some slices of butter over the top of the pork. And then chicken broth. Can and a quarter, can and a half with a foil pan about this big. You just want to kind of fill it up to about a 1/2 inch, maybe close to 3/4 of an inch in the bottom of that foil pan with chicken broth. Cover the whole thing with foil, put it back in the smoker. Remember, fat cap down. And set your timer for 2 hours. All right, another 2 hours into this smoke, a total of 10 hours smoke time now. A little longer than I originally thought, but that's okay. We're looking for an internal temp of 200 degrees Fahrenheit on our pork butt. We're hovering around 200, 202, so we're right in the zone. We're going to very carefully now take the foil off of this foil pan and pour the chicken broth into a measuring cup. Very carefully, the broth is gonna be hot. And once you've done that, cover your pork butt over with foil once again, keeping it in that foil pan. And then we're gonna set this aside. We're gonna let this rest for about an hour. At the same time, you could cover your chicken broth with foil. We're gonna be using that again later. All right, we've rested for an hour. Time to pull the pork. We're gonna see how this goes. I've seen a couple different techniques. I'm gonna try to do this by hand. Make no mistake, I know this is still very hot. I have some brand new Lowe's work gloves under my rubber gloves just to kind of protect myself. So we're just gonna dig into it. And wow, that comes apart real nice. Just like that, and just kind of shredding it up, moving it over to this other foil pan, and then what you can do, we've got our chicken broth, pour a little bit on there, just kind of soak that in. Of course, we've got to give it a test. Now, this was at the request of a friend of mine, Andy Martino in California. He's a drummer I used to play with out in Cali. So if this is horrible, we'll blame the drummer, which is usually the case. Let's just see. No, not horrible at all. So I tell you what, bone pulled out easy enough. We're about ready to assemble us some tacos. Decided to finish the shredding of the pork with the forks. Let's take a look at that. Not bad. First time, right out the gate. I'm just gonna give it just a little more of the broth. One more little taste before we assemble them. It's so good. The ingredients we used, I really pulled it toward the savory side of things. I was expecting more sweet. I guess I'm just used to pulled pork being sweeter. It pulled it toward the savory. There's the slightest little bit of zest, of spice on top of it from the hot sauce rub, I think, before we did phase 2, put it back on the smoker. But it really is fantastic. Let's make some tacos. All right, got my corn tortillas heating up over on my griddle behind me. These little taco holders, very convenient. I highly recommend for anything taco related. All right, let's put a little bit of that shredded pork down in the bottom of that. Then we'll go with some onion. Cilantro. And what I really wanted, I wanted some kind of avocado cream sauce. And that's what the apron's for. All I could find was this Taco Bell, so very authentic. A little drizzle, a little dollop. Queso fresco cheese, this stuff is great. Just crumbles real easy in the hand. That one in the middle looks a little sad. I'll give him a little bit more pork. And that one too. A little squeeze of lime on the top. And the real moment of truth, finally. Ended up being about a 10-hour smoke, 1 hour more than I figured, but I think it's all worth it. It all works. You know, I know it's kind of sacrilege to even say, I'm sure people like pico de gallo. I'm sure it's great on this. I'm not a big pico fan. But go crazy with the toppings. There are no rules. Jimbo's Barbecue Haasienda. I'm Jim Haas. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Life is short. Eat well, enjoy yourselves, and listen to good music. Cheers. Taco time.